was on our show the other day.
Liano.
Hey, we are live on Facebook.
All right.
So we're getting started here. I don't think Deb is going to join us. Jim's coming on right now because she's got work to do in the garden. However, I'm just going to start right off with it because it is the biggest, newest news of 2020. Michael Thompson finally got the commutation from our governor that we have been expecting and wanting for a long time. It just happened today, along with 3 other prisoners too. I really don't know the details on them, but 4 people were commuted today and Michael Thompson was one of them. So a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time and energy went into a lot of people to make that happen. Of course, he was in prison for a stupid fucking reason for decades. So about fucking time. And of course, you know, we talked about it a little bit, but Richard DeLisi also a couple of weeks ago was finally let out. And, you know, it is awesome and it feels great. Can you imagine how Michael Thompson fucking feels right now, man?
Yeah.
Wow. Can't imagine. I can't imagine, man. Fuck. I can only imagine that it's just profound, you know, and so happy for him. Still pissed off that that anybody has to go through this bullshit though.
Yeah, it is. It's a source of frustration that the probation and commutation system in Michigan is so onerous. But having said that, we did it. We did it. I mean, there's a lot of people that went into this, as Jamie mentioned, but if you look at the timeline, this started to come to prominence. The Cannabis Caucus had an interview with Dana Nessel. We got her interested. She wrote a letter to the governor. The Cannabis Caucus had another interview with Dana Nessel that we recorded, where she said she was horrified when she learned the details and thanked us for bringing it to her attention. We had the parole board hearing. I participated in that. Mike McCurdy participated in that, giving testimony, trying to help get him popped out. And then it happens, as sometimes dreams do, right? As only dreams can. Sometimes from an unexpected corner at an unexpected time comes serenity and peace. And I hope that Michael and his family are able to embrace a full and loving life together, because they certainly have a lot of time to make up.
That's fucking awesome, man. I do want to encourage the celebration and being happy, especially just think about what's going through this dude's head right now. He was very touched during the parole hearing. Everybody said, look, this guy is fine. He didn't really do anything. He's perfectly able to come out and be productive and not cause any problems. This is, you know, people were very rational and real about it and describing everything. And he was taking it all in. And he knew that there was a lot of support and love for him out there at that time. I can only imagine where he is now, knowing he's one step closer to walking out.
Well, and listening to him describe his last few moments as a free man, he drove north on Dorr Highway, stopped at a traffic light, a red traffic light on Robert T. Longway. There was a police cruiser already in the intersection. The light turned green, the police lights flashed blue, and that was the last moment he spent as a free man in America. And the odd part about it is that literally half a block away sits a licensed dispensary selling cannabis, selling by the hour more cannabis than that guy got put away for possessing in all of his actions. So our system has advanced so many ways, and we want to draw positive attention in places where it's due, but there are some things that we still need to clean up. There are some messes from the previous life that we lived that we still have to come by and take care of. And if we forget that, if we're so busy racing forward that we stop to look behind, people get lost. People get lost because we failed them. So this is, you know what, where we won.
So this, you bring up some good stuff here. Berg's coming on. You know, the situation with Michael Thompson wasn't a secret. There were many efforts being made to bring this to people's attention and to get meetings with the governor and all this other kind of stuff. But it really was the meeting by the reformed Michigan Democratic Cannabis Caucus that include Rick and Mike McCurdy and Zara Abbas.
And Jamie.
Yep, that got word to the attorney general, which prompted action, which prompted more action. I mean, sometimes these quirky things happen. Everybody knows this problem needs to be fixed, but it's not going to be set in motion unless the right thing happens and the right person does the right thing at the right time. And we were definitely a part of that. I mean, we should be very happy that Last Prisoner Project, Redemption, us, it all culminated, and many other supporters too. It all culminated.
Montel Williams too hashtagged it. I saw some professional athletes hashtagging free Michael Thompson as well. Clearly, when you have that kind of national attention, you're actually making some progress. Stephen D'Angelo with Last Prisoner Project was very involved as well.
So, I want to talk about year in review today. This is a big part of the story of year in review. I mean, everything we're talking about took place this year, as far as a lot of the heavy action moves to be made to get him out, or to get at least the commutation. I mean, we'll feel even better about it when he steps out, and that's a big press deal, and we can see that in action, and have another celebration as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure maybe we'll get him on this show. I mean, it'd be nice to have the conversation with him from his own heart. How did that situation feel? How was that experience? Other than it being pretty profound, it's difficult to imagine what that was actually like, what it is actually like for him. And you'd have to be in his situation to really know. I mean, and fortunately we're not, but too many people are. Hey, Roche is going to join us.
Well, good. Right. The situation with Michael Thompson was fueled by the drug war, but it was also fueled by a racist society and by a judicial system that's supposed to uphold the rights of every American citizen, but very clearly over the decades proved that they didn't really hold the rights of black men as equal as they did white men. Absolutely.
Hey, Roche, good to see you, man. So year in review. There's a lot of shit that took place this last year, a lot of intense stuff. We started right off by talking about Michael Thompson because he got commuted today finally, and
we're super happy.
We're into that. Hey, but hey, let's good or bad, one of each, whatever you like. What about this year was the biggest story, or what were the couple of biggest things that affected people's lives this year? Obviously, COVID.
George Floyd.
Can't get around that. Black Lives Matter and George Floyd.
Right.
Man, that's huge thing.
Breonna Taylor.
Let's spin it around and let people say what they think. Rick, what do you think?
Well, it's almost going to be very difficult to talk about 2020 without mentioning the pandemic, even though I know it's not specifically cannabis related. But when we talk about all the different things that we accomplished in 2020, and we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Michael Thompson and the election that took place. All of these we have to remember that all those accomplishments took place in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a time when everybody was saying stay home, and the American people said, no, this is too important. This is something I can't sit on the sidelines for. I have to get involved, even if my involvement is no more than standing on a sign on the side of a street, holding a sign in support of some other people that are actually doing actions. America stood up. America showed up at the polls in greater numbers than we ever have before. We've created freedoms for the people of the United States of America that they haven't had, and cannabis law reform charged forward this year. I mean, if you look at the number of states that continue to go for cannabis law reform, whether it's through their legislature or through directly petitioning the government, it's shocking. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you look at the maturation of the hemp program, 2019 was an abbreviated hemp growth here in Michigan. But this year, Tony Shannicut told us that she had 18-foot tall hemp plants. 18-foot tall hemp plants in northern Michigan. That's a success. All of that took place in the middle of the worst pandemic our nation has ever seen.
What do you think that is in pounds off of each one of those 18-foot tall plants? Anybody have
with hemp, though, remember that typically when it grows tall like that, you're not getting a whole lot of mids. You're not getting a whole lot of mid bud. You're getting mostly top bud, mostly cola, because the plants are planted so close together that there's not a lot of opportunity for the mids to grow.
But there's 5, 7, 10 pounds or something coming off of those fucking things, right? I mean, wow.
Must be a lot.
There's probably a couple
By the
different
way,
types of hemp. Like,
wasn't the impetus of your story there, Rick. And I apologize to take that off track. It just
It's okay.
caught me as a curious thing, imagining an 18-foot tall hemp plant, and
Well,
several.
and when we grow hemp for long chain fibers, we won't be worried about the flowers. But this hemp was grown for CBD flower, so flower is very relevant to its production. Jim Salame, you've been around for a while. You've seen a lot. You had successes with Decriminalized Nature Ann Arbor this year. 2020 has been just wild. What are your takeaways from this year, sir?
Well, first of all, happy belated winter solstice, everybody. I don't know if anyone saw the junction of Jupiter and Saturn.
Too cloudy.
Cloudy.
But this year's been crazy. Obviously, like the big wins, like Decrim Nature, and getting all the support for that, and just that still continuing to grow. That's probably one of the biggest ones for me. And then, obviously the pandemic and the election and all that stuff, plays a big role in it. Michael Thompson today, that's obviously huge. What a great way to end the year, on a great note like that. And hopefully that keeps momentum. And Michael, after he gets with his family and has time to acclimate, can then come out and help us do that for other people. So it's just awesome where that's going. I'm trying to think of other really cool things. I don't know. I think like COVID really brought people into themselves to kind of take inventory on things and kind of reassess. So there's some positive things there, hopefully for people.
I'll tell you what I've noticed in 2020, and I'm going to go to Colin next, so get ready for your comments. But there are some people in my life that I assumed were really good friends, but now that you're not able to interact with them like we used to before, some of that have drifted. And I find that my life really isn't any lesser because they're not around me every single day. Like those people, enjoy their company, and would choose to spend time with them if I could. But I think I have a better idea, a better definition of what my relationships are now. Mm-hmm. I think COVID forced that upon us. Yeah, that's just my observation. But Colin, what about you?
Well, 2020 has been quite the year. We forgot that in the beginning, Donald Trump was impeached before COVID. And then, a
bunch of shit happened just in January, just to throw in there.
Yeah. Also, I just was part of the whole Decriminalized Nature and watching that grow throughout all of even last year, this time, we were starting and meeting regularly, and that grew into something, and that was really cool. But, COVID, shut us down, and we learned about Zoom. I'm sure most of you didn't know about it. But I learned about it 2 years ago or 3 years ago because I had to use it for a job. And so I already had it downloaded on my phone. I was like, oh.
Man, you're super hipster with that.
I am pretty hipster.
Hey, Colin, didn't you stop a robbery in 2022?
I didn't stop a robbery in 2020. That was 2019.
Oh, I thought that was this year.
And I didn't really stop it. I just was there, okay? What happened with the bong? What happened?
Just reprimanded the thieves. You get back out of this.
Yesterday, there's a new twist to the story.
Yeah.
And also the MORE Act was kind of significant in a way. Mm-hmm. And we got $1,200 once, and we're supposed to get $600 coming again at us. So that was kind of weird too. Yeah.
Even people that are still working are getting paid, and whatever. So Berg,
I lost a job. I quit my job as a bud tender this year too, so it's kind of significant, and I think in a way.
It is. Berg, what do you have to add about 2020 observations?
I'm just glad Well, it's still not over. They're taking it too far as the elections go. But I mean, I think the most I like about 2020 is next year that motherfucker's out of office, man. It's not even who's replacing him. It's just the fact that get that motherfucker out of there, you know.
Talk about an accomplishment.
Yeah, you know what we always talk about too, though. Unfortunately, while we say get him out, all the things that brought him there and the set of circumstances that have empowered him exist. He still got 70 plus million people.
Yeah.
to
No,
vote
I mean
for.
they took a survey of Trump supporters, and over half of them still think that this motherfucker's not leaving the fucking White House. Like,
300,000 people signed up to a virtual second inauguration for President Trump.
Was that a
Okay.
scam? I heard.
It could be. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Those people fall for everything, right? I get all these emails, begging me for money from Trump because somebody on the Michigan Normal list signed us up for something one time. Jesus Christ, it's
Red
terrible.
Forester up north.
Yep. So, Roche, you were the next one to join our broadcast. We'll get to Mr. Hashbash in just a moment. But, Roche, thank you for joining us. Enjoyed your time on Medical Mondays last night. What are your observations about 2020?
Well, you know, I feel like I've been in quarantine since 2019. Everything that's been going on, it just seems all so coincidental and calculated. But in that, like you said, it's kind of forced people to decide about their relationships with each other, with themselves, with the people that they live with, because there's no escaping this reality, you know. As far as the political things go with the election, um, I kind of see things through maybe a different perspective, just because, like you said, it's making people reevaluate themselves and their relationships. And to me, this kind of stuff is like old hat, and like historically speaking, this kind of stuff is old hat to melanated people in America. But the fact that now it's being cast upon the entire country, um, I'm really interested to see how it all turns out.
There might be, you say there might be some real change. I mean, Black Lives Matter might be a force that does something.
Well, see, Black Lives Matter is two different things. I think when you say Black Lives Matter, there's like a movement, and then there's an organization.
Correct.
And it's two different things going on there. And like I said, this isn't surprising to me at all. This is standard par for the course stuff. I'm waiting for the rest of America to catch up to what's going on. So in a sense, I think it's good. If people watch Medical Mondays or have heard me on here, I guess I have some pretty liberal views, and all of that. But in reality, I'm kind of rooting for Trump to stay president, and I'm glad that he's like doubling down and hunkering, because it's forcing people to make a choice. Are you with this crazy shit or not? And
it did that before. That's why we got so much more participation in politics than we've ever seen. I mean, we talk about the 70 plus million for Trump, but Joe Biden got 77 million or 81 million. Okay. So, I mean, both of those independently are the most that any president's gotten in an election. Biden comes out on top because most of this one.
This whole Trump movement is like the least diplomatic thing ever.
Whether a group or a movement, I mean, whichever side that we're taking on, it's a thing that happened in response, and it was a lot more substantive in response than what we've seen. It's not like, yes, everybody's pissed off. Here's some lip service, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now just everything goes back to normal, then another incident becomes, front and center again that we all respond to. Just a series of lip service. It just seems like there's some change coming out of this, whether it's significant enough and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know.
The
Can we
movement
not
itself
give
is
Trump so much? Can we not give Trump so much credit on the 70-some million votes that he got? Because a lot of those are people that voted for him purely on the Republican ticket, not for anything to do with him himself.
No, but he is responsible for the large amount of votes that the Democrats
Right.
got.
One of the things that he did
He brought
was
out
get
more people to the
participate.
polls
Right.
than he brought out more people to the polls than anybody else. I would include Bernie Sanders in that.
Well, let me just say that we made voting easier for Americans this time around. So let's not, in my personal opinion, I don't think we should be assigning credit to any individual personality for the fact that we had a record level vote. I think we should be assigning the fact that we made it so much easier for most of Americans to vote.
Well, a combination thereof, because even in 2018, there was a sign of a new world of participation taking place. And it was probably in response to the craziness of the presidential election.
Yep. A lot of people that never ever believed in the elections process actually found themselves standing in line for hours to vote because they felt so strongly about it. Adam, it's your turn. Talk to us about 2020's observations and your expectations maybe for next year.
It's 420.
To me, that's why I did my dab hit before I went. I knew I'd miss 420 once again. To me, 2020 has been the woke year of misinformation. So there are many people that have become what we call woke. However, if you just became woke, dumbass, you've been asleep. We can talk about all these people that you guys can probably remember their names because they've been in the paper recently. But I remember Warren and 23rd and Malice Green.
Mm-hmm.
That happened in my city.
Budson and Nevers.
Ain't shit happened in my city since.
Yeah.
I got roughed up by Budson and Nevers in my lifetime.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's what you get for being black.
You know what, Roche? Give that little story, man, if you don't mind. Give us a little headline on what happened there.
Okay, so look, man. My first job, it wasn't like I applied or I aspired. I was just in there playing video games so much that the corner store offered me a job. So it was like my first job. And it was a popular store right by the bridge, right by the 3rd precinct. All the cops would come in there and play their lottery, come behind the counter, get liquor. It was, it was like little cop land back there, behind the glass. And the owners were real receptive to them and wanted that police attention and all of that. So it was cool. I would see these dudes literally every day. And here's like the thing, there's other cops that were a part of this little circle that nobody talks about either, that were like worse because they had a longer career. Okay. Would see these guys on a daily fucking basis, would not stop them from putting me in jail when I was not within the walls of that fucking establishment. Fuck me up, do all kind of shit. And then
next day at work, how you doing, little guy?
Yeah.
That's the power game.
But that's a big city police game.
I'm 14 years old. Okay, I got good grades. I go to parochial school, and I have a job. And they're fucking with me.
But again,
that was their job.
Right. Again, that was part of the job in the city at the time. That was something that Detroit was well known for generations. Prior to Budson and Nevers, they used to have the Big Four. I actually am good friends with Cindy Ann Hinkle in Bay City. Her father was one of the members of the Big Four. I mean, the stories that are told, the way they used to harass people. And what I like to tell people is, Detroit was unique, that it had this all-white police force in a city that was getting darker. And then Coleman Young became mayor, and he said, you know what, I'm going to darken up the police force and make it look like the city. And in order to do that, he lowered, which this doesn't affect police work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making any comment. He lowered the standards. So all you needed was a high school education. You didn't need a college degree. Well, that enabled a bunch of young black men to sign up to be Detroit police officers. The problem with that is that those young black men then go and are trained by white cops to become cops. And those same young black cops were then turned into no different than those white cops, these same racist guys who saw these young black kids as being a problem. So it's been a long time for us to get away from that in the city of Detroit. And I like to point out that, you know, Budson and Nevers, they weren't the last. But those days are coming to a close in the city because they've gone more to a community type police.
I just want to add, like, growing up in Southwest too. Southwest was like a totally different place.
Its own island, right?
It was like, you know, it was in Southwest. It didn't matter if you were white. You can ask Roche. Like, I was harassed more than this motherfucker was. You know, like, straight up. Like, they didn't give a fuck what color you were. They were like, "Where's the drugs?" They found some roaches on my friend and said, "Oh, how are we supposed to get high off of this?" And made us do fucking push-ups in the fucking snow, you know, like
assholes, man. So, you know, Bunsen and Nevers separated the Malice Green's scalp. They lifted the scalp off the. I mean, that's fucking with a flashlight.
Right. So
Magnum.
The Magnum.
One of the things I like to point out, and what we were talking about 2020, had Malice Green happened in the information era, had Malice Green happened in the era where I could go live on my phone from a street corner, where I could call people out and say, "Hey, come on, we're about to protest." Had Malice Green happened then, things would be very different. Yeah. But because they happened the way they happened, it's been a much slower progression here. Now, I would point out, during all these protests that we saw in 2020, they all across the country, they also happened here. They happened in the suburbs in a few spots, but they regularly happened nightly in Detroit. And the only confrontations that happened were between protesters and police officers. And at this point, there are investigations into the actions of those police officers who fired upon journalists, groups of journalists, multiple times. I mean, this isn't just a one-off. You know, they didn't catch the family once, and they didn't catch the reporter once, and they didn't catch the hoodlums once. They caught the reporters 3 times and fired rubber bullets and mace at them. And these things are coming to light and they're making change. I just like to point out that for what everybody has to say about Detroit, Detroit was at the head of the curve for this action. And I believe it's because of what we've gone through in the past, which goes to what's happening in 2020. The fact that people have access to information, the fact that people are home and not working and have time on their hands and can get on the internet and do all kinds of things. Things have changed, you know. Colin talked about using Zoom a couple years ago because he had a job thing. I was using Zoom in 2012 and couldn't get anybody to participate.
Google Hangouts. Yeah.
And what happened to Skype?
Well, I was going to say, because at the time I was competing with something called Google Hangouts, and that never went anywhere. But Zoom took off in the business world. And that's how I originally had heard about it. Now you got grandmothers Zooming. Now, I mean, John Sinclair, for God's sakes, can get on a Zoom call. Okay. It took a little work in the beginning. You got to walk him through things. But once you show him the process, he gets it. And there's tons of people out there now. You know, we did that. We did the virtual hash bash. We did the 420 virtual thingy. We've done we've all been involved in a half a dozen virtual things where there's more people on the screen than you could possibly shake a stick at.
Yeah.
We're all not meeting in a studio to do this show. We're all in different places around the state right now doing this show.
And I happen to be reading a book, which I'll pimp out right now, called Post-Corona, From Crisis to Opportunity. And it talks of exactly about what we're talking about. The fact that all kinds of things now are normal on Zoom. This is going to take us into the new era, because at one point you would have never used a Zoom call on television. You would have never used it as a remote live on television. Now it's a daily occurrence. Yeah. To the point that in business, if you've seen what's happened in the business world over the last year, it used to look like this in the background. Now, the business calls and the people from their homes have now moved into corners where they have perfectly decorated backgrounds. It's very subtle. The colors have, oh, but Jamie, I'm going to tell you, they've even gone past that. They've gotten to the point where they have somebody tell them how to, you know, feng shui their fucking corner so that it looks more like an appropriate business call and all of that crap. And
background, you're absolutely right. Those are designers set up in some cases. Yes.
So that guy from Michigan Bro Grow show, Bildo or whatever his name is, very cool dude. Yeah, he's got a total nice, beautiful. Well, I didn't say dildo. I said like dildo or something like that. But skill.
You did say dildo, but it was after you said Philbo the first time. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But I just want to get that out there. You did say.
Point being, whether or not you all have dildos on your minds or not, point being, the guy's got a nice little setup. A good example of what we're talking about.
Right, and I poke fun at it. I mean, my setup has 2 butt plugs in the background. They're constantly in the shot. Most people have no idea.
And where's the third one at any given time?
He doesn't want to discuss that.
Oh, okay. No, okay. We're gonna get a demonstration. Huh? Okay.
Why his earlier show he wears no pants? Because
hey.
But I do think that the information era that we thought we had entered into before took off on a rocket ship in 2020, and the reality is that, you know, you can hate on Donald Trump all you want. We now are able to use more characters on Twitter because of Donald Trump. Okay, that was directly related to him. More people voted because of Donald Trump. I don't know who else in this country has done more to energize politics.
Too bad it had to be that way, but I think you're right. And I think we all.
I mean, it also with Trump being president, it's brought out all these motherfuckers that have been underneath the woodwork too.
Well, wait a minute. Let me back up.
A lot of these racist motherfuckers that came out with full force.
Well, wait, but hold on. Let me back up, because what happened was, as he's bringing these people out, you have to understand that we have this social thing going on where at the same time in this culture, we're shaming people to put their rebel flags away. Now, I'm not saying everybody that flew a rebel flag was a racist, but I had a pretty good idea what their politics were. And now we've shamed them into hiding that stuff. So now they all had to come out. And as Rick Thompson said, we're all fascinated at the relationships that we had and how we watched them crumble on social media.
Did you see the story where the Proud Boy, they were all fucking, you know, got combat gear on, walking to the hotel and shit. And then they're like, they tell that they announce it on social media. Oh yeah, come to such and such hotel. We're going to be there.
That's fucked up.
There's later video of him like in the hospital. Somebody went and fucking stabbed him and fucking shanked him.
We were just teased. We were given the presentation of Tom Beller from Real Leaf Solutions, and then when I went to go talk to him, he switched seats real quick with Ryan Basore.
Oh man,
must be up in Kalkaska at the Real Leaf Solutions
facility. It is. It's beautiful up here.
And I want to come at some of their weed.
Didn't want to totally go. Hey, some of their weed is awesome, by the way. Kalkushka, lots of it, man.
Switched.
So yeah, didn't mean to cut you off, Berg, but definitely wanted to ask Ryan to come on, especially in light of the commutation today. And the Redemption Foundation was a big part of those discussions and has spearheaded the group that has raised a lot of money to help people out in Michael Thompson's situation, you know, when and if they are to be released. So just want to get your reaction, Ryan. Plus, we're talking about year in review 2020. This was a big story, and it ends on a good note.
Yeah, you know, I'm super excited because I didn't. I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't know what to expect from our governor, if she was going to do anything or not. I'll be honest. And she actually did it. And three other gentlemen were also in the same boat. Hopefully, a lot more. Rudy Gammo. But that's just exciting. We needed a win. We needed to get some momentum going. I mean, we put a lot of energy into this, as you guys know, and done a lot of work. Maybe that's just kind of more of the dam or just the start of the pushing that boulder up the hill. It's moving a little bit now, and what we need is this to see both sides of the aisle and everyone say, "Oh, of course you should release him," and get good press, and everyone, both, whether you're left or right or neither in between, should think this is a good idea. And we always got to prove to these politicians that it's a political winner first before anything else. So it's exciting. I would like to say that I did get my post up 1 minute before Rick Thompson.
Your Facebook post?
I was pushing. Yeah, I was pushing hard on my PR team to make sure. I was like, we got to beat Rick. So 1 minute.
Well, that's a standard. That's a standard. If you beat Rick,
You're not
to
gonna
the
beat
punch on
Zara,
this,
Neither.
Zara-
don't even
Zara's-
try to do that.
Zara's pretty speedy.
Watch her.
We talked about. Go ahead, Jamie.
I was gonna ask Ryan if you wanted to continue this. That's fine, Rick. I was gonna say, obviously, Redemption came into the world. The Redemption Foundation came into the world. Both have done great things in a short period of time.
And when you talk
Michael
about
Thompson-
2020 review, Redemption has a lot to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna say we got that. And 2020, in the midst of a bunch of weird shit's been a good year for you, Ryan. And
It's personally and professionally definitely the best year of my life. Not even close. And I've had a lot of shitty years, so I don't feel bad about saying that. Hope everyone had a great year or can make the best out of a situation, as Adam knows, and I'm sure there's some others on here. Like when you're put in a shitty situation, it's like it kind of reminded me like it's time for me to go to work, like make myself better. And it's not like being locked up, nothing like it, but it's time to work on yourself and time to improve. When that's how you keep the brain going positively, if you're getting better and all that. So that's kind of the way I approached it. I've been working out 4 to 5 times a week for over half a year, and I've been eating like a pig, so it hasn't really worked that well. But I'm gonna try to change that on the new year. But just feeling good, and I got stumbled a little bit with my launch. I was ordering packaging from a factory in Wuhan right before the Chinese New Year and the pandemic. So let's just say that slowed me down about 5 months. I'm excited to say that all my packaging now is coming from the United States. I've been switched over, and I'm really pumped about that. And, the technology. And I think there's a lot of companies, as I'm finding out, as I'm learning more about the packaging industry, which is, I understand why there's a major in it now at Michigan State and all these colleges. There's more people looking to do that, because who knows what the future brings with tariffs, wars, pandemics. It's a lot easier to drive to Wisconsin than talk to someone in Shanghai or something, and demand a refund. So that's gone real well. Real excited to get the foundation up. It's really, I have a good team around me. I have a business coach, an accountant, and a PR and marketing team. But besides that, it's just me and, my relationships with my growers and processors. So I'm not able to do as much as I'd like, but I'm working on that. I have a plan with the foundation, especially to really get things going and in the second quarter of next year, to where I can spend a lot more time. So we did work. We teamed up with the Last Prisoner Project and Michigan Cannabis Caucus, the Democratic Party, and then Weed Maps and Montel helped some, but it was really our group of 3, and we raised a lot of money to get this going, and we're putting money on people's books and helping. And we're also, now when Michael gets out, he's got plenty of money to get established and get going. And so this was the first. So it's definitely, you definitely celebrate along the way. It's all the process. And I take a break, and I'm going to be celebrating this one tonight when I get home.
Some intertwined stories there, and it's all cool. All in 2020, there's kind of a return of activism to a degree. We've talked about that in the show before, and then that turned out to have some positive results within the same year, and to set the pace for hopefully some more good stuff next year along these lines.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't know what to expect with the Last Prisoner Project, but Sarah and Michelle, who are really running the day-to-day, they are super talented ladies that are in it for all the right reasons. And they're dedicated and they're organized. So they really helped with the overall structure and getting things, but we're boots on the ground in Michigan, and they're making Michigan their number one state because we got such an activism community. We've had our doors kicked in for so much. There's so many people that are upset about it. And they created this mess. They created this whole situation on themselves. And then, that's why when the cops say they're mad that, they got Gretchen elected, they ran Bill Schuette, and the same thing with Dana. Like, they did that by creating all of us and what we went through and how long we fought. But like, Michigan is the test case. We got the most activists. We got the most favorable AG that they're working with, the legislature, and people are engaged. And we have a lot of people that have been adversely affected by having the door kicked in or getting charges, so it's just they're going to take Michigan and make it their state and then try to duplicate it in the rest. So I'm glad glad we're getting the attention. I'm glad we had the success, and I'm glad so many people in Michigan care.
Hey, Rick, go ahead this time, man. I was going to jump in again, but go ahead.
Sarah Gersten from the Last Prisoner Project, who you're talking about, she spoke at Michael Thompson's parole board hearing. I also spoke at that too. There's about 13 of us that gave testimony. She was very, very professional, very eloquent in some of the things that she talked about, the general reasons why we want to embrace commutation and expungement, and why people should generally be released from parole, and the dangers of remaining incarcerated. Good asset to have. I'm glad that they're treating Michigan as a test case, because that means we get our favorite son, Michael Thompson, out of jail. But I imagine Ohio needs that same kind of attention. Illinois needs that same kind of attention. And I got to tell you, we focus a lot about states with big urban populations, but some of the worst bastards,
rural states.
Some of these rural states, man, these Wyoming guys.
Well, look at Oklahoma, which has got a law more open than us now. 3 years ago, they were the number one per square mile spot in the world, basically, for marijuana arrests, and now it's just the Wild West down there, which is awesome. But that needs, that's crazy down there that they're not done. It's coming down there too, obviously. But you're exactly right. It needs to happen.
The important thing is Michigan is a success story, so that when they start to duplicate what we did here in other states, they have a positive example that they can build from. And we were part of that. And I'm sure that that's an ongoing relationship. We talk about the Redemption Foundation, but also the Michigan Cannabis Prisoner Release Project has started as well, too. Ryan, can you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so it's Michigan Cannabis Prisoner Relief Fund, and we created it through Last Prisoner Project. But myself, the Michigan Cannabis Caucus, and we all talk on how that money gets allocated. They totally are cool. Like we decide it for Michigan, and we raised almost now 45 grand. It was initially 30. We're up to 45. We're getting more trickling in, and I think this will be a big help. But it's whether it's helping out Rudy Gamo's family, who's they're having trouble with his son's leukemia bills right now, and putting money on people's books, putting 10 grand aside to show that when Michael Thompson gets out, he has an apartment, he has support, because they use that against you. Oh, you don't have a family. Oh, you don't have a place to stay. Oh, you don't have this. Well, why don't you? Well, and then so they were, even though we were telling them that we had this money for them, this funds, they were still, the parole board, that department was acting like he had no support. So that was one of the reasons we did it so publicly, is now you can't deny that Michael Thompson has money when he gets out, because it's all over the media, and you've been told that at the hearing. So that was part of the strategy there, because they were using that as a reason, as not even bringing it to the committee. So it's awesome. We're going to hopefully raise a lot more money, and I want to, we'll be real transparent where it goes, so more people can get excited about it. And I think we're still that list that we got from the AG's office. We're at 1,000 people, and there's still other people in jail that aren't on that list that have their sentences enhanced because of marijuana, like a coke charge. Maybe it's 7 years, fine. You did it, fine. But you had 3 grams when you're 19 years old, and now you got 15 years. That's bullshit. Right. That stuff's got to be addressed, because that's as you really start peeling the layers, which I thought I knew a lot of the layers. I'm learning new layers of how fucked up weed plays as far as like keeping people, like our justice and our criminal system. It's crazy every step of the way.
Let me just jump in real quick. For our viewers that don't know, the list Ryan just mentioned is a list provided by the Attorney General's Office to the Cannabis Caucus and Redemption Foundation and Last Prisoner Project, which lists out all of the prisoners in Michigan jails controlled by the state that had cannabis as a compounding issue in their sentence, or where they were directly sentenced as a result of it. That's a list we're working off of to decide who we can help pop out of jail. Go ahead, Ryan.
A couple of things from our viewers right now. Danielle, who's a good friend of the show, just said that this is a year of silver linings. Like everybody realizes we have a bunch of shit going on. We're always looking out for the positives we can take out of it. I thought that was a pretty good message. Dylan mentions a lot of the infighting between families and good friends over politics this last year is a big dynamic. That's very true too. I've experienced some of that.
Well, it seems like for the first time, people actually have been offended by what their family members thought and said. I mean, we all knew people in the past who had different political views. Yeah. That was never a problem. Now people seem to be taking offense, and I can only assume it's because in this last choice, you were just on the side of normal, or you were on the side of crazy. And if you were on the side of crazy, people just couldn't handle that.
Right. We've decided to speak up now more than we ever had before. Jamie, what else do we have in the chat there?
Well, I just want to mention one more thing too. Going back to even some of the stuff that Adam was talking about before, with all of these voters, I think that even though it's a weird phenomenon that we're talking about, but don't we feel better when way more people are participating in the process, even if we don't like the final answer, then it's just a few people showed up that day and made a decision.
And that's something politicians have never wanted, both Democrats and Republicans, is they do not want participation.
They don't.
They do not want everybody.
Remember the old
vote.
saying? The old saying was, you don't talk about religion and you don't talk about politics with people because of where that conversation will go. But nowadays, I mean, it's important that we talk about that stuff. That's how we progress. That's how we grow. That's how we learn about each other's point of view. And I think that's just now starting to show itself and surface even more. So
we've also entered this digital era in such a way that a guy who had no chance of ever running for politics ever in his life, and therefore didn't, was able to spend 10 years on television on one of the highest rated shows of all time, and then spend what equated to very little money to become the highest office in the land. Mm-hmm. And now I think that since we've seen that, there will be a backlash to it that will never happen again. There will be celebrity politicians, but there will never be any
first time in politics president.
There will never be any politicians who used to be, celebrities. There may be the Arnold Schwarzenegger types who become governor. Right. There are guys who will work their way up. Don't get me wrong. The Sonny Bonos of the world. Ronald Reagan was a great example. Really worked his way up.
Jesse Ventura, man, the old wrestler, he was governor, didn't he?
Right. And he talked about running for president.
What I liked about him was once he got into government and seeing what it was all about, he was like, fuck this shit. He moved to Mexico, man.
He exposed what he could and left.
Yeah.
But that's,
So Ryan, any other particular 2020 scenario to highlight or important to you?
I for me, that's real important and something I think about and talk about, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but even watching what's just happened in the market, I'm just really excited about Michigan marijuana scene, because there's a lot of these big companies that opened up in Michigan and started in Michigan and valued themselves in 17 before the bubble burst in 18, and doesn't know anything about marijuana. I got told how everything was going to go, and looked at us as a bunch of dumb stoners, and we're winners at everything else we do. These guys don't know what, but they don't understand. This is for a lot of us, this is like a lifestyle. It's all, I think 24/7. It's all we thought about. It's all we believe in it, willing to do about anything for it. And the little guys right now that are agile, they're adjusting. They built relationships, which is who knew you needed to build relationships and give customer service and be a good person. They're selling their products still, and there's been a market crash where even some of these big guys, they can't sell it at all, because there's enough growers out there now. I mean, what happened, and we're gonna talk about tomorrow on my show at 1:00, is like the market just. I mean, people went from $4,000 to $2,000, and now they can't sell it because everyone's like, "Go fuck."
Those are per pound prices you're referring to,
right? And the brands and people that are working hard and that have a little following, they're going to get their $2,000 to $3,000 a pound, and that's going to stay that way for a while. But like those guys, who wants to, people got treated really, really rudely. A lot of these stores, a lot of the mom and pop stores, by these big rows when they're the only ones that had anything you had to buy, and they were assholes about it. And now now they're not even having to buy from them. So we're hearing like now they want to come and cap the grows at the state level, go back after the black market, and the only way you attack the black market is by providing great products at a low price, and that's the only way. And they still
But you shouldn't even worry about it though. The pie is big.
Just be good. And these are big time, like I'm sure they're that's what drives me nuts. They're like capitalism. I love capitalism, but like it's bullshit, because capitalism is letting the best man best win. And if you aren't good enough at it, they're trying to get, the crony capitalism, the politicians,
artificial market control, use their influence on the lawmakers and policy making.
There's plenty for everybody.
Exactly.
Sure. And the reality is this. And I consider myself a self-appointed spokesman for the black market.
Yep.
Yes, you do, Adam.
Yep.
You can fucking bring it all you want. All right. We've perfected this over the last 80, 90, 100 years.
Exactly.
We had the war declared against us, and honestly, drugs won the war on drugs. We're doing okay. Bring it.
Congratulations to drugs for winning the war on drugs.
The reality is this. I'm happy that we've got guys like Director Brisboe who are willing to sit down and talk with us, because for a long time, the only time we could get a politician or any type of person that could make a difference to listen to us,
a real decision maker, right, was if we committed a crime and ended up on the front page of the newspaper.
Or if we dangled a sick child in front of their face and forced them to pay attention to it.
Or dangled a Christmas ornament with actual buds in it.
Yeah,
I can tell you back in the 90s when Mike Rogers was a local representative, he went to Livingston High School, and he was talking to the kids at Livingston High School, and they told him how excited they were because Hash Bash was coming up. And he went to the newspaper and he got some press on it. And I went to the newspaper and I said, fuck this douchebag. Of course, these kids are all excited about Hash Bash because their parents don't give a shit what they're doing on a Saturday afternoon. It's noon on a Saturday. What's a high school kid doing there? That's not on us. That's on the parents. And Rogers and I got in a thing over the years. We never had politicians talk about us. Now we have elected officials reaching out to us to ask if they can appear at our events. I mean, this is huge. We've got people's personal cell phones.
Yeah. Yep. I remember.
I won't ask who's got what. Yeah. But I know people that have cell phones numbers, personal cell phone numbers, that it's like a get out of jail call if you needed it.
Boy, I'm not sure I'd ever want to pull on that thread because the backlash would just be horrible. I know so-and-so, you got to let me off.
That's not the issue. The point is these people are connected. They know each other, and that's what makes things happen.
Yep.
Okay.
And what you're saying, Adam, is what's so much different than these other states. And we're telling these guys, you should have gone to one of those other states. Sorry, you're from Michigan, but you got to be, you suck. You need to go to Ohio, Illinois, or New York, New Jersey, or Florida, buy a license, and where you're guaranteed to have it, because those states, they'll go and spend $1 million on the top 5 lobbyists and they get whatever they want done. Can't do that here. We got into politics when I started getting in, met you, Adam, 2009. Like we started getting, like Jeff Irwin would talk to us. And then, you know, you end up helping with campaigns. You end up raising money. You end up doing initiatives. Now, like we're friends. Like you're saying, we're friends with these politicians and these reps and the attorney general and different people. So you can't just buy your way in Michigan, you know?
No, and what we need to do is we need to put our people in office. Now, I knew Jeff Irwin long before he ran for office, okay? We were old poker buddies in Ann Arbor, him and a crew of mine. But we need to put our people, get them elected so that we don't have to ply them with money, and we don't have to send our who do them people you guys hire to get all the work done?
Lobbyists.
Lobbyists. Yes, sorry. It's a word I try not to use, so it's not in my
Illegal bribers.
But so the point is we don't
Hired
need
politicians.
that. What we want is we want to know that if we have a question, and I'm a one issue guy, I'm a weed guy. If I got a weed thing, I know I can call Jeff Irwin and he's going to see it my way. He may not agree with me, but he'll understand where I'm coming from. He knows what I mean by what I'm saying, and we can work together. Not like these other people who, geez, I can't tell you how many hundreds of phone calls I've made into congressmen's offices where if I was able to finally get through to some legislative assistant and they'd let me run my mouth for 5 minutes, if I were to ask them what I just talked about, they wouldn't have known. Yeah. And we all made those calls for years, and that's how we would lobby. But now it's a whole different world. It's partially because of these big guys with the money. It's partially because of their influence. But in Michigan, we're lucky because our political people see it from our point of view also. We've taken them on the tours and we've educated them properly as opposed to the misinformation. So sorry.
Before we jump to Jamie's special guest, let me just say I want to remind everybody Michigan is traditionally rated year after year after year as having the most corrupt legislature with the worst processes. On a national basis, it's recognized the influence peddling that goes on in our legislature is greater than it goes on in other states. So you would imagine Brian mentioned these people that would have had success in a closed market where there's a fixed number of licenses, where once they got in, they were guaranteed, no matter how badly they screwed up, they would still keep their license. They came to Michigan, and no matter how corrupt the legislature is, you can't buy your way out of a bad business plan. And the black market has always existed. I had Director Briswell on my show on December 9th, and I asked him specifically about how many people in Michigan actually consume pot. He said, we don't have any actual numbers, but our research shows there's up to 4 million adults that are potential cannabis users in Michigan. Now, there's only 6.9 million adults, period, in Michigan.
Right.
So 4 million out of 6.9 million.
You knew when they estimated 1.5 million that it must be an undercount at some point.
Of course.
Absolutely true. We knew it was too. So when we look at a market that's not only that large, but that prevalent, as Ryan said, you can't pull shit on our people. You can't hide it. We communicate with each other. We talk. When Green Peak went after caregivers, remember that? Lansing and banners and signs and 60 of their employees with identical matching T-shirts, you know, and they were basically the only people that showed up for the rally.
And no great sign that they learned, a lesson from that total debacle and misfire.
There's plenty of anti-Green Peak signs there too with Radway's face on it. It was pretty funny.
There's some pretty rude ones too, but you know what? As I look at Green Peak leadership and I see how they post on social media and I see the arguments they make when they discuss things on Facebook, they didn't learn a lesson.
So they are an example of what we were just talking about. The big resourceful places trying to use their influence to gain artificial market share as opposed to just going out and earning it, as Brian suggests.
But I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I just think that one of the problems we have is that the masses now are not us. We are not the masses. We are not the common weed smoker.
We set the pace in this world, though, man.
No. I understand that. But the average guy who didn't smoke weed until it was legal or only had smoked sparingly because it was illegal, who now can legally go buy at a dispensary, he's going to his local dispensary he doesn't care. He doesn't know any better. And these people who have these mass outfits that don't really care about quality or don't really care about how they treat people, they're going to get the Budweiser customer over and over and over and over. You know,
that'd be true, Adam, except for they're not being who they are. They want to be the Bell's Two Hearted at Green Peak and Skyman and Lansing. You open up an Apple store in the hood, they're selling their own flower $50 to $70 eighths. There's other stores that have been in the game. They've got specials on their own eighths that are better at $25 an eighth rec right now in Lansing. Yeah, and they're getting those cheaper customers. I agree. They're going to have to adjust, but I think part of it is when you promise, you value yourself, and you let loan and you borrow so much money, you make so many promises and mistakes. I'm not smart enough to know, but like my gut and watching, like what, you know, like just stuff doesn't make sense.
Look, if your profit potential was based on a $3,500 a pound cycle,
right,
and now it's bouncing at $2,500 a pound,
or distillate to stay up at
you're dropping
40 a
voodoo
gram
in your voodoo right now. So you are really in trouble because you don't know how you're going to be able to solve things because your profit margin is all whacked out. You were top heavy, built out a lot of facilities, spent a lot of money, borrowed a lot of cash to do that.
Yep. Your top 20 people are not growers or people in the business. They're lawyers and whoever.
Throw on top of that, Ryan, a couple of crops maybe that don't pass muster that have to be discounted because they don't satisfy testing. Hasn't that been a case with some of the larger places, Ryan? You would know better than us.
A lot of that, a lot of willowing, a lot of remediation, a lot of turning it into distillate. But the distillate market with that crash seems like overnight too. As far as I don't know about wholesale, but the pens now, the vape carts, what they're back to what they were going when we were letting the caregivers still selling as far as wholesale.
Remember, we're still coming off the vape crisis, so there were some manufacturers that got out of the industry once that happened because it just kind of crashed. The demand, everybody was all suspect of it. So when it ramped back up, I think there was an artificial time where there was a need in the marketplace because there were fewer people putting them out. Then
and they cut off the caregiver supply for distillate, and then when when there's people bringing in from out of state and they cut that off abruptly on the rec side, that shook it up. And then, the October 1st date, all that came in and shook it up. And then there was nothing. And now there was 50,000 outdoor plants that just got harvested. That's mostly almost all going to distillate. So and those are people now that have deals with vape, whether the vape cart company did it themselves or that. A lot of those vape cart companies didn't have their own supply ever. They were just getting cheap distillate, exclusive, whoever choice was just making it for them. But now, some of those people got it and then they have it and they can't sit on it because sales aren't what they are with the market, with going on what it is. So then they're just flooding it, dropping their pants and bringing their price way down. So
at any given time, there's about 450,000 plants in the metric system at any given time growing under the regulated market. So, I mean, with that much supply, you have to do better. The competition is too great.
He does realize there's more than that in the black market, right?
Oh yeah,
I think all of us realize that.
Probably by 10.
That's okay.
What was the number? 400?
450.
Yeah, I would guess by tenfold there's that in the black market.
So we're estimating the black market at about 8 billion in Michigan. What's your take, Adam?
Yeah.
Triangulating like the amount of nutrients sold in
we're
a square, like a 100 square miles, and doing the math, like that's kind of where we came up with.
I could see that.
We're gonna bring on our next guest and talk and just switch gears a little bit, but I want to say that Amanda Jocelyn was watching or is watching and mentioned that she really likes your packaging now, Ryan. So a woman is on chat saying she likes your package. So take that in.
Wow.
And then she also put together.
She's a black belt. Watch what you say about her.
She also put together a really good show for Planet Green Trees last week with Andrew D'Angelo, Steve D'Angelo's brother, and he was a big force behind Last Prisoner Project. He talked a lot about Michael Thompson and stuff too.
Yep.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, she's doing a good job with her videos.
Yeah, so let's bring in and she did a great one for a botanical company in East Tawas, by the way.